Once upon a time, there was a man named Jack who woke up in a deserted town. He rubbed his eyes and looked around, but there was nobody in sight. The buildings stood like silent sentinels, their windows broken and their doors hanging off their hinges. Jack couldn't remember how he got there or why he was in such a desolate place. Feeling a chill creeping down his spine, Jack began to walk cautiously through the empty streets. The only sound was the echo of his footsteps on the cracked pavement. As he wandered, he noticed strange markings on the walls, symbols that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Suddenly, a sense of unease washed over him, and he felt as though he was being watched. Jack quickened his pace, his heart pounding in his chest. Every shadow seemed to hold a hidden threat, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister was lurking in the darkness. Just as he turned a corner, Jack heard a low growl behind him. He spun around, but there was nothing there. He tried to tell himself that it was just his imagination, but deep down, he knew that something was terribly wrong. With a sinking feeling in his gut, Jack realized that he was being hunted. But by what, he didn't know. He tried to remember how he ended up in the deserted town, but his memories were hazy, like trying to grasp at smoke. As he continued to flee through the empty streets, Jack caught glimpses of movement out of the corner of his eye. Shadows seemed to dance just beyond his line of sight, and he could hear the sound of heavy breathing echoing in his ears. Panic began to claw at Jack's mind as he realized that he was completely alone, with no one to turn to for help. The deserted town seemed to stretch on endlessly, with no hope of escape. Suddenly, Jack stumbled upon a decrepit old church looming ahead. Desperation flooding his veins, he sprinted towards it, hoping to find sanctuary within its walls. But as he pushed open the creaking doors, he was greeted by darkness so thick he could almost touch it. With nowhere else to turn, Jack ventured further into the church, his footsteps echoing eerily in the silence. But just as he reached the altar, he froze in horror as he heard a guttural growl from the shadows. Before he could react, a pair of glowing eyes emerged from the darkness, fixating on him with a hunger that sent shivers down his spine. Jack stumbled backwards, his heart pounding in his chest as he realized the true nature of the thing that was hunting him. It was a creature straight out of nightmares, its twisted form blending seamlessly with the shadows. With a snarl, it lunged towards him, its claws outstretched and gleaming in the dim light. Terrified beyond words, Jack turned and fled, his footsteps echoing through the empty church as he raced towards the exit. But no matter how fast he ran, he could feel the creature's hot breath on his neck, its presence looming ever closer. As Jack burst out into the cold night air, he realized that there was no escape from the thing that hunted him. With a final burst of adrenaline, he sprinted into the darkness, knowing that his fate was sealed. And as the echoes of his footsteps faded into the night, the deserted town remained silent once more, a haunting reminder of the horrors that lurked within its shadows.